Well, hello again, everybody. Thanks so much for joining in on part two of my conversation with Ben. And today he's going to help us answer some really important questions related to coronavirus, like why is it happening? Did God cause it to happen? And why doesn't God just get rid of it entirely? These are really important questions to be asking, and I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did.
The first thing to kind of point out, I think, as Christians is to realize that we live in a broken world. Um, we have these questions because we recognize that there are things about this world that ought to be different. There are things about the world that should be better. And we call those things evil. Okay, when I say evil, evil means anything that was not the way that it was supposed to be. It could be kind of a moral wrongdoing like sin, or but it could also be an accident, a natural disaster, a disease. All those types of things do cause pain and suffering, as we're seeing right now. Um, and the Bible does confirm that the world's brokenness was caused by sin, which is rebelling against God. But one thing I think is important to notice that makes it so relevant for not just Christians, but for everyone, is that you don't need to be a Christian to know that there's something wrong with the world. You go ask anyone, any worldview, atheist, Christian, Muslim, Jew, anyone, they will tell you things that are wrong with the world. They will have complaints that the world is not as good as it should be. But as Christians, we understand that firstly, the Bible confirms that the world is broken, and that we caused, as humans, we caused that brokenness to come in through the world. So evil does exist, and I would add in there, a lot of times when people ask these questions, they're asking this question coming from a place of, I can't believe in God because of all this pain and suffering. And so that's something to keep in mind too as we go through this. So the world is broken. There is evil that exists, but the world was not meant to be this way. And one of the questions that you brought up is kind of, well, God created everything. Does that mean God created evil? Does that mean God created this and caused this to happen? Why would God do that? God created good things, including us, but evil is not a good thing, obviously. We're seeing that, and we experience that all the time. So there kind of seems to be a contradiction there. So let me explain one thing about evil. God didn't create evil, but evil does exist only because something good exists. And you kind of recognize this as kind of the shadows prove the sunshine type of concept. Okay, you can have sunshine without shadows. You can't have shadows without sunshine. Okay, you can't have evil without good. And we know that good things only exist because God exists. I suppose God could intervene and stop things, but many times God does allow evil because God's given us free will to act. If God was to intervene and make us choose something good every time we were about to do something bad, then we wouldn't really have free will. We would be more like robots. We wouldn't really be like humans. And God doesn't want robots. He wants people to choose him and to choose to love him. And we all know that love has to be freely given. Okay, you can't force someone to love you. Otherwise, that's not really love. But because we have the freedom to choose love, because we have the freedom to choose good, we also have the freedom to choose something else, something like evil.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, I know it's hard most of the time to see any value whatsoever in our personal suffering and the things that we're going through, our pain. But the Bible does teach us that evil can play a purpose in our lives. It can build us up. It can bring others and ourselves closer to God, and it can play a part in accomplishing God's work. God can use evil and suffering for good things. When it comes to why a particular evil occurs, most of the time we can't really answer why a specific thing happens at a specific time in a specific place to a specific person. And usually when someone asks that kind of question of why something like this, why God would allow this to happen, they're a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times they're asking it because they've endured something very painful in their own life, or they know someone that's close to them who has. And so when you're speaking with your family and friends about this, it's very important to be very cognizant of that and to be very gentle when approaching this topic. But a lot of times we can't answer why something happens, why something specific happens, or why something like this virus happens, especially while it's happening. And the reason is because the reasons why for those things are a lot of times only in the mind of God, and we can't read God's mind. We can't know what's in the mind of God unless he tells us. And in some cases, he has told us for things in the past in Scripture. But most of the time, when there's a question that starts with, why did God? We have to realize that there are things that we're probably not going to be able to answer. But the reason God does allow certain evils might be because it brings about a good thing that we can't see yet. We can't see how everything fits together, but God can. He can see the end from the beginning. And there's this idea called the ripple effect that I'm sure you're familiar with, and it's very easy to kind of get. But the idea of the ripple effect is that every event has an effect on something else. Every event that happens ripples forward to affect future events. And one person does something and that causes something else to happen, and that affects other people, and so on and so forth. And we can't always see the ripples, though. We're in the middle, but we can't see where all those ripples end up going. As Christians, we can have a hope that even in this coronavirus situation, where there's a lot of struggle, a lot of pain, a lot of uncertainty, that God can use this situation and bring glory to him. And we just have hope in that.
Yeah. Man, Ben, thank you so much. That was very well said. A lot of truth there. All of it was truth, and it really helps me. It helps. I'm thinking as you're talking through, like, just conversations with my 11-year-old who's already asking questions about coronavirus and why it's happening and other experiences she's had. So thank you for helping me frame that, and so many others that are going to watch this. So appreciate you being here. And if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me. My email is jgreer@newcity.us, and we'll get you answers. We'll put you in touch with the right people. If you're going through anything, please don't hesitate to do that. Again, thanks for tuning in today, and thank you, Ben. And everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Josh.